Was in the shower. We'd done half of a 20 miler. We were doing it in the morning, so it wasn't too hot, and we did 2 consecutive 10 milers. And I was taking a shower after the second 10 miler, and Morales comes in the shower. Hey, somebody flew a plane into the World Trade Center. Okay, but no one really knew. They thought, was it an accident? We don't know what the deal is. I get out the shower, go over to Gettner's room.
Gettner.
He had the biggest TV in the whole floor and the whole platoon. So everyone's piled in there, checking it out, and we were all there live as we watched the second plane go in.
Yeah.
And then it was all right. What are we doing?
Right. Welcome to the Leading with Vulnerability podcast. I'm your host, Yuma Barnett, and today I've got an old friend, right? David Pernas. We grew up in 175 together, and if you've been in the Army, you know that word, grow up. That's literally what you do, and when you get to a Ranger Battalion as a private. He goes way back in the Army. He did 4 years in the Army, very dynamic 4 years, 9/11, 5 deployments, Iraq, Afghanistan. Got out of the Army, went to school, went to law school, and is now down here in Miami doing great things. He's a great resource for guys to reach out to if they want to follow the same path. I know he's got a great story, and I'll hand it over to him to introduce himself.
Hey, thanks, Barnett, and thank you very much for having me on. I've been watching the show. It's pretty awesome what you've been doing. David Pernas. You kind of summed up a bit of my service. I'm originally born in New York City, raised in New Jersey. Parents. Immigrant parents. They both came to the country from El Salvador, my mother, and Cuba, my father. They met in New York at my grandfather's bodega.
Oh, wow.
My grandfather came from Cuba in 1960 when Castro initially took over, and he set himself up in New York City. He's quite a businessman, so he was able to do well relatively quickly and bought himself a bodega. My father came in 1980, and he was working at my grandfather's bodega, and my mom stumbled in to buy a soda, and that's how they met. And so we, Washington Heights, uptown New York, that's where we were born, and then moved over to Jersey, and raised there for most of my life to high school.
Yeah. So your time, how much of your Cuban heritage played a role in your life? Even up to joining the Army or post, how's that played a role in your life?
Yeah, I mean that's always been something pretty important to me. You don't realize necessarily how important growing up, because everything you just grow into this situation, and it's just stuff you see every day, so you don't really have much of a frame of reference. But yeah, it's definitely it's part of the reason why I came down to Miami for sure. And stuff I try to stay in touch with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a big part of your life, probably, right? And now you're probably kind of reconnecting with it as you're down here in Miami. I think you said your folks are down here now, and all the stuff that's happening in Cuba now. It's not a lot of change has happened in all those years. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's definitely important to me. So I mean, in some ways, I did keep in mind when I was joining the military, how bad things were in Cuba, and then how that forced half of my family to come to the U.S. In some ways that may have made me think about part of the reason of joining the military is to learning self-defense, learning how to use weapons, because sometimes that's necessary in those situations.
Absolutely.
And now, unfortunately, it's been like that for 60, 70 years in Cuba. I remember having conversations with family, my uncle, and just hearing how my uncle came maybe about 20 years ago now, or actually more like 15, and just hearing how such a big swath of his life was taken by living under a communist regime. It hurts. And now the people of Cuba are really, with the conditions having gotten even worse. I mean, it's been bad in certain periods. It's always been bad, but it's been bad and worse in certain periods. They're doing something that they never done,
right,
since Castro took over, which is protesting, getting out in the streets in mass, and voicing that. So there's some eyes on that in Miami. That's a real big deal, because of the strong Cuban culture and heritage, and So yeah, we'll see what can be done about that.
So going back, what led you to the Army? Did you come in with an option 40 contract?
I
like
did.
You knew you were going Ranger?
Yeah.
Why? What drove all that?
So I'll tell you how it all went, right? I'm 15 years old, 16 years old, using the library at my high school, trying to figure out what I want to do in life.
Yeah.
And I kind of came to the decision. I saw a lot of movies at the time. There were a few that really stuck out in me, military movies, and just always had that kind of that in me. And my mother says, growing up, my mother wouldn't let me have any kind of toy guns. She didn't believe in them, so I'd go out and find a stick that I thought had a little bend in it, and I'd have my little toy gun. So I decided I wanted to join the military, and if you're going to join, you want to, in the mind of a 15, 16-year-old, you want to be a badass. You want to do the coolest thing you can find. I also wanted to do school, though, so I kind of combined it in my mind. I was going to apply to West Point. And West Point has a program where if you're enlisted, you can actually get pulled out, and the requirements are easier. You don't have to get a congressional recommendation. I feel like if you're doing something like that to West Point out of high school, you got to have that in mind and kind of start lining those things up early. So that was the route. I was going to enlist and then apply to go to West Point. And then I figured, enlist. I'm still going to do the baddest thing I could find. So that was Ranger Battalion.
Yeah. What did your family think about it when you told me you were joining the Army and you're going to go to the Ranger, the special operations route? What did they think about it?
They weren't into it. I mean, my mother mainly. Yeah. She just, she's like a lot of mothers, I'm sure, doesn't want to see their little boy get hurt.
Yep.
So she cried. I remember when I jumped in the van to get picked up to go off. She was, don't go, Dave. The last minute, she's trying to convince me. So no, they weren't super into it. My father, he served in the Cuban military conscription. He was forced to. But I had an uncle in the Navy. So I don't think they didn't see what I was seeing or what I wanted to do in life. Yeah. So it's fine.
I think that's just part of being a mother, right? And I know, I mean, I've been in the Army 21 years. When I talk about my kids going to the Army, my wife is like, no, it's not happening. So it's just part of it. The mom doesn't want that to happen, So join the Army, come to the 75th Ranger Regiment. You were there. You got there a RIP class after me.
Yeah, I think April.
Yeah, so
2001.
Yeah, not too far behind me and Matt when we got there. We were there for 9 months or so, and then 9/11 happens. Yeah. So, did that change some of your trajectory as of the West Point stuff? You're from New York. You grew up. You used to care. What effect did 9/11 have on you as a Ranger and a person?
For sure, yeah. I didn't end up going to West Point. I didn't apply at West Point, so I was fortunate to made it. Been in 1st Battalion in April, and the April before September 11th occurred. And I still remember. Everyone will always remember where they were when they found out. I was in the shower. We'd done half of a 20-miler. We were doing it in the morning, so it wasn't too hot. And we did 2 consecutive 10-milers, and I was taking a shower after the second 10-miler, and Morales comes in the shower. Hey, somebody flew a plane into the World Trade Center. Okay, but no one really knew. They thought, was it an accident? We don't know what the deal is. I get out the shower, go over to Gettner's room. He had
Gettner.
He had the biggest TV in the whole floor and the whole platoon. So everyone's piled in there. Checking it out, and we were all there live as we watched the second plane go in. Yeah. And then it was all right. What are we doing? Right. I think we're waiting. Everyone immediately waiting for the order. What are we doing? And probably within 20 minutes, we got a D bag list. Yep. Packing D bags. Okay, just be ready, guys.
It was wild, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just. I think we were all, you were in 2nd platoon, a floor above us, down at 1st platoon, and I think everybody was just collectively standing in somebody's room, just kind of watching this, going, "Wow, I can't believe this is happening." And now, what do we do about it? Was like the next thing. I remember it was madness, packing D bags, and there was the hallways were a mess, and everybody's running around. We're going, and
exactly.
There's this weird, excitement about it, but there's also this, you're feeling the loss and you're seeing the tragedy. It's a very strange place to be in as a soldier, as a Ranger, because you get to do what you've trained to do, but the circumstances around that are, not what we expected. It's it was a strange day. And then I remember we ended up, nothing really happened. We didn't do anything that day. We went a little, crazy, and I just ended up going to the field for like 2 weeks and guarding ammo and doing all that stuff.
Right.
So
yeah,
we kind of went on business as usual, and 375 went first, and we followed them up, in January timeframe. So, as a New Yorker, what is that? Does it still hold? What is it? Do you still have those feelings when 9/11 comes around?
Yeah, it's definitely you still hold on to some of that anger.
Yeah.
That they would do that. That, like you said, that they killed so many innocent people. It hits home. It's real personal.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just almost glad to be in that position to actually do something about
absolutely.
it. It's because a lot of folks wanted to.
Yeah.
And across the country, everyone felt it, and we were in that that unique position to be ready. To go.
Yeah, I remember before we deployed, we got those boxes of T-shirts from the firehouses and down in New York, and most of us took them overseas and wore them over there. I still have mine. I still see guys every now and then on Facebook and stuff posting theirs. We holding on to them, but yeah, we did kind of take them with us in spirit when we went over there on our first trip. So through your deployments, all the time in regiment, any of those deployments stick out as the ones that you look back on the most?
Sure, it's funny. You kind of speak intuitively when you ask these questions. Of course, Cantigua Valley. That's one that's different from all the others.
That's right.
It's very different. I tell the story sometimes. I mean, it's at least I think all other 4 deployments. There was a plan. Hey, we're leaving on this date. Cantigua was a little different. Cantigua, again, coming in from the field. CQ says, "Hey, man, you guys are going to Afghanistan on Tuesday."
Yep.
All right, really? That's different. You get there. Normally, when you get there, you kind of chill out for a little bit. We hit the ground. Hey, man, pack your stuff. We're leaving in 36 hours. Oh, yeah? All right. You get your old stuff packed. And here's the story I like to tell. So we get on, the tarmac, ready to get picked up. And we all hear the mission. And it sounded, I think one of them was like, all right, it's like platoon. You're going to go up here and you're going to assault what looks like this castle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And there's a 50 caliber Dushka on top. You're like, come on, man. That sounds weird, but you're just, it's just so awesome how being in that unit with those people that
was a dynamic, like 4 days really. When we left to where we were, from Savannah to the mountains of Afghanistan in the snow, it was crazy.
We're there.
Yeah, you say Cantigua, and when I think of Cantigua, and I think of 2 Alpha, I think of the eggs that Whitfield and all those guys that ate all those eggs from those and got all sick and had to get medevaced out of the. Remember that?
I didn't. I don't think that trickled down to me.
Yeah.
But that sounds about right. That's funny. Man.
That was just that is one of those deployments you just look back on and go, what happened? 45 days up in this valley, and the Thanksgiving dinner that they flew in for us, and we
was awesome.
We all set it up down there on
totally
on all the cardboard honeycomb that they used to airdrop into us. And it was like, you couldn't just fly us out of here. You had to fly in Thanksgiving dinner to us. That was a wild trip. And then you did the Iraq invasion too, right?
Yep.
What do you remember about that? What sticks out in that one?
So I was fortunate. I graduated Ranger school in time, went straight through, so I can get sent ahead. It was like me and a couple other guys, like 5 other guys, all in the same boat. So we it was funny. No one was there. None of our senior management was there. So we had to kind of like try to reach out and be like, hey, can someone get us on a bird?
Yeah.
It was funny being a Spec 4 trying to do that on your own. And then similar when we landed in Iraq, we're trying to like, okay, where's our platoon? Can we jump on somebody's bird to go meet up with them? And we did it. It was interesting. Bunch of stuff that you remember, all those stray dogs and hanging out. Yeah.
Did you do the drive-in with us? Right.
I did. So actually, exactly. That's right.
I remember. If you remember, we were driving in the invasion, and we come to the border there, and it's that big mound, like a literal mound of dirt separating the 2 countries, and we drove all the way through and got to that airfield, and that giant sandstorm hit us. You remember that? Yeah,
for sure. Everyone's all covered up, trying to not get caught,
trying to survive. And then I remember coming out of the sandstorm, which was like 36 hours long. all the guns were packed, like nothing worked. And of course they're like, all right, we're moving. We're going to go assault this objective up here. And maybe 2 Alpha, you guys might've set up the support by fire position on that. I don't remember, but again, a dynamic deployment, driving all over the dang place. Did you come out and do the Jessica Lynch raid with us as well?
I missed that one because like I said, I got sent ahead. I caught up with the company with the platoon, and then it was funny. All the guys who were still behind and that didn't go forward, they ended up going on the Jessica Lynch. So we were sitting out in the desert. Yeah. I'm like, damn, man, I wish I would have gone on that.
Oh, that's funny. So yeah, so good times you spent. Those years in uniform. If you look back on your time in uniform, which it's a while ago now, what was your hardest day in uniform?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. That's like a little uncomfortable question because it's funny you think about why it's your hardest day. So I would say you mentioned Matt Commons earlier. It was for me it was right after you found out that he died. It was immediately. I feel like immediately it was kind of like a deer in headlights for me personally. I didn't know how to process it, and you're 19 years old. I think I just turned 20, and I think about like who I was at the time and kind of like what my upbringing was, and I had I wouldn't say a rough childhood, but I had like my parents were divorced. Sometimes that creates some kind of some challenges for a young man.
Yep, same for me.
And I think I kind of came out of that not totally emotionally mature. And then when you're hit with something so real, is that so? Matt was probably Matt's one of my first friends in life, and maybe if I say honest, maybe my first friend, my real first friend, because that experience of being in the military together with someone is totally different than anything else. And I met him at 30th AG. He was like one of the first people I met. We were actually in basic together the whole time, and he's definitely my closest bud there. And so when that happened, it was just a lot. So after that, trying to kind of really piece that together in your mind, that process was super. Even today, it's just kind of how do you process that. So it's definitely kicked off a lot. It's kicked off a lot of emotions and emotional maturity that that it's a tough thing.
Yeah, it is. That. And were you in Kandahar?
Yeah. So we had just so when that mission went down, we had just you relieved us from Kandahar, or excuse me, from Bagram. We went down to Oman. That was our that was going to be our first time to chill in Oman for a little bit, and I saw Matt as we were crossing each other on the tarmac. Yeah. Gave me a little what's up. And so that's where we were in Oman when they told us. When you heard about it. And then when it happened, we were supposed to be down there for a little while, but we just went straight up to Kandahar. Yeah. Like, all right, let's get you guys closer. Yeah,
that was a tough time because we're young, we feel invincible at the time, and then all of a sudden, three of our our brothers are gone. Yeah, man. Not to mention the other ones that were lost that same day, but it was a tough experience for Alpha Company, because we felt we were like on top of the world, and then all of a sudden we were knocked down a peg, and this is real, how real, what the consequences of what we do over here.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's and like you said, I still process it to this day. Every March 3th, March 4th, I think about it. I spend some time thinking about it because I think you have to. It's part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the emotions you have, you owe it to them, you feel like it. And then in some, there's good feelings and there's bad feelings. Like sometimes for a while I'm like, shoot, man, I should never be happy again. For a little, it feels like you went on and lived your life and he hasn't, but,
so you got to live it for him,
Yeah, exactly.
The best you can.
At the end of the day, that's definitely it. And remember him and tell his stories.
Yeah. Tell the stories. That's right. So after that, you decided to get out of service, follow on with your education. Looking back on it, have you ever thought, man, what would happen if I'd have stayed in? Are you the type of guy that looks back every once in a while, or
for sure? I look back constantly. I look back and I look forward. They say you should live in the present, but I got a bad habit of thinking about it. Of course, that's definitely that's a different line of life. Yeah. I've been in situations all the time where I'm thinking, shoot, or talking to guys like you, who've been in your whole life, man. Right. And I think, would I not have been happier if I did that?
Right.
It's if you do one thing, you can't do another thing. So, I couldn't be in the situation I am if I had done that. But there's something awesome about what I did, what you do.
Yeah.
That you don't find that anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you got out, would you E4, E5?
E4.
So you got so there's a large population that still get out E4, E5, and struggle when they get out or don't really know what they want to do. So let's talk about your journey a little bit through where you are now. So you came down here to Florida for your undergrad.
That's right. Yeah.
How was that experience transitioning straight from service to the college life? Did your military time help you, or like the work ethic and stuff you learned there, the drive?
So looking back, the military time helps with everything. Like I was talking to another bud recently who was in, and I'm like, it's a life hack, bro. Like, why doesn't everyone just go to battalion?
Right.
And then he's like, hey, you know what? It's because it's super hard.
Right.
So not everyone can do it. And he's like, you're right. But if I don't know, it just helps with everything. So yeah, I think my transition went fine. I like school.
Yeah.
Like I'd plan on going to West Point. That was already in my mind. So I kind of hit the ground running with some momentum, and I got out in late July. I was starting school by late August. So I think that's important for guys, is to have a plan, of course, and to keep momentum. Maybe some folks say, hey, I'm not tied anymore, so I'll take some time off. But for me, I didn't want time off. I knew kind of what I wanted to get into, so I got right into it.
Yeah, I usually recommend to guys to not take time off, because that's when you take time, and then all of a sudden you take a little more time, and then you look back and you look at your wasted time. So I think it's good to just go right into it and get it done. So came down here, went to Florida International. Right?
That's right. Yep.
Undergrad. How was that experience?
It was great. Yeah, it was good. It's a good school. I picked it primarily. I wanted to go to Miami. I have a lot of family here, and I wanted to spend some time in Cuban culture, and just practice my Spanish. I had some interest in the Latin American market as well. I thought I wanted to do business, so I figured Miami is a good starting spot. I didn't want to spend a bunch of cash. Because I don't got it.
Right.
And I didn't want to go into debt.
Yep.
And I knew I wanted to go to grad school, so I figured I'll take debt for grad school if I need to. So all that said, FIU, the public school down here, and it was good. Banged out my classes, had some fun along the way. Miami's a fun city.
Absolutely.
Young man, 22 years old.
Yeah, that could. You not only finished, you finished them early, right? You did it early.
Yeah. With that momentum, it's funny. I in some ways in my mind, I'm like, oh shoot, man, I took 4 years off. I got a hurry. So I think the most classes I took one semester were 21 credits.
Wow.
I was taking credits in the summers. Yeah. So I got it out a year early, and then worked a year, and then law school.
Yeah, I'm sure that part of being in regiment helps you with that work ethic. You've in the time you're deployed and the time you've always been in a worse predicament, in a tougher place. So taking some college classes in Miami, not that bad,
I like to say to people kind of the military, but of course regiment, that really prepares you for anything, and at the time, and even now, like I felt like you could drop me on Mars, and we'll, with a bunch of my buds, and we'll just all post up and do our thing.
Absolutely.
So in that way, there's never really any challenge that's too much, or it could be too much. Yeah. But you never go into it thinking it's going to be too much.
Right.
Another story I like to tell is when we were in Cantigua, we were there for a couple days, and we're like, all right, we didn't find the dude we came here for, so let's go looking through the mountains a bit. And right the night before we're supposed to look, 3 feet of snow.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was waist high snow in this valley. And we got out, and then we hit this little high ground. We're looking for look like miles of snow ahead of us. Yep. And I look, I'm at that time, Spec 4, Tab Spec 4. I'm looking to my leadership like, all right, man, who's going to call this off, huh, guys? We can't walk through freaking miles of waist-high snow.
We did.
But that's exactly what we did. And then when we turned around, and you turn around, you just see, these like lines, this wedged lines of guys cutting through snow. Yeah. Yeah. And that was a real, pivotal point in my perspective, where I realized, don't cut yourself short. Like, just do it. Try it, and you may not make it, but you could do a lot more than you think you can.
Absolutely. I think that's where we went up the valleys, right? Looking. So I remember watching Aiko walk up the valleys, and me and Heike, Anthony, drew ORP security. So me and Heike got left alone and unafraid with all the company's rucksacks there at the mouth of that valley. Ooh. And you guys were gone for a hot minute.
Yeah,
and
long day.
I will admit that we turned into child thieves. And we went searching through you guys' rucksacks because we did not prepare for you guys to be gone that long. But I remember watching you guys leave, and then hours and hours passed, and then turning around and I seen you guys come back, and I was like, you guys looked like a Ranger School patrol, just miserable, cold, wet, and me and Anthony were just kind of sitting there like, oh man, we just ate all their food. Oh yeah, Cantiva. We could talk. That's a show in itself, right there. It really is. So you graduate here, you go to law school. Why law school? Why'd you choose law school? Northwestern law of not just some dinky community college law school. You went to Northwestern. How come?
So looking back, I kind of realized why some things aligned for me on that. There was a day when my squad leader's like, hey man, you shouldn't wear phrase on your jeans. Yeah. And I was a private. I'm like, why not? I'm a little bit of a punk. I'm like, why not? I thought that. I certainly didn't say that, but I thought that. And he's like, someone's like, hey, it's Blue Book standards. I'm like, all right, let me find this Blue Book. I read the whole Blue Book looking for where does it say I can't? Realized it just says generally whatever they say you can't do, you can't do.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But I realized I liked that exercise of kind of analyzing text and finding what its meaning is, and then maybe finding a way around the meaning. So that's kind of what I do in law. I draft contracts. I've done different areas, but right now I'm drafting contracts about financial transactions, about purchasing companies, and you find the meaning in all these kind of dense language. So I guess I had that in me, but more so I was a young kid going to school, and I'm reading stuff to look up, and I'm like, shoot, man, these dudes make good money. Oh, so, young middle class kid trying to make it in this country. Freaking, that's the direction I went. So that's how I picked law. And then Northwestern, like I said, was just the best school I can get into, and I was fortunate. I got into like a couple good ones, and they offered me an awesome scholarship. Yeah. So that's a great school. Yeah.
What was the law school experience like? How long were you in law school?
3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 years. Can't do that one quick.
No.
So it was good. It was a bit of a shock, like academically. FIU wasn't as challenging. So when I got there, I just realized, shoot, man, there's a lot of dudes here that are sharp.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's like like I say, in some ways the military prepared you for everything. So you stuck with it. And then the grades showed the real results, so that they went well, and it was a real good experience getting that academic knife sharpened, Yeah,
that's good. So coming out of law school, what'd you do those years post law school?
It's been a career. I've had a unconventional path, non-traditional, I believe is what they would call me, and especially lawyers. So lawyers in general are, let's say, risk-averse people. They're always trying to find the liability that their client should not be exposed to.
Right.
So that goes into how they live their life.
Right.
But I have not necessarily been like that. Again, my track record, a little more risk-taking than everyone, than most people in life. So I came out of law school, I was fortunate. I came out in the middle of the global financial crisis of 2008. Yeah. So it was a really tough hiring period, but things worked out. I got into one of the best law firms in New York. It was super fortunate. I got great experience there. But then I left. I got then this is where it kind of just starts winding. I got a really interesting offer to join a buddy's startup company, developing technology in oil and gas, and I took that opportunity. I worked with him and then started kind of developing additional practice on the side for about 5 years, including a trial. Oh. So that's again just that whole experience makes you willing to do things. So, as a corporate lawyer, normally lawyers are like, what type of lawyer are you? I'm this type of lawyer. After only like maybe 3 years of legal experience in corporate law, someone's like, hey man, you want to help me with this litigation? And I'm like, sure, man, I'll give it a shot. And I didn't really think what was going to come of it. I thought it would be like a quick little, you tell someone you did all this bad to me, let me get some dough. But, 2.5 years later, I'm doing a trial in front of a whole courtroom and stuff. So, all that, and then went back to law, went back to big law firm practice. So now, I'm working back to a large law firm down in Miami, doing that kind of traditional M&A work, back on the trad track.
Yeah. That's good. What advice would you give somebody that's thinking about going to law? Like, why, if somebody's just say you should go or no, you shouldn't go, what would you tell them?
That's it. I feel like there's a good amount of lawyers out there that are not happy with their chosen track. You see, you can find little corners of the internet where a bunch of lawyers are griping about the lifestyle. At least large law firms, like, you work on a billable hour.
Yeah. So
your incentive is to work.
Yeah.
And it could be grueling hours sometimes, but if you want to go that way, I'd say learn what it is first.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know, I got to law school, not really knowing
Right.
what a lawyer does, be honest with you.
Right.
And then not knowing what our goals were.
Yeah.
When we got to, so by the goals, I mean, you get there and then you realize, oh, okay, what we're all trying to do is get to the best law firm we can. That's
Right.
like the goal. Because that's supposed to start your career and set that foundation. In some ways, I guess it's like kind of the military. You want to start off the best unit you can get into.
Yeah, right.
I think if you know what it is, have your eyes open going in. You can make it and be happy. Like I feel like now, especially after some years of kind of finding a path, I found a firm where I like the people. I like the work that I'm doing. I'm not hating it at all.
Yeah.
And it helps you support your lifestyle and family and stuff. So it has a lot of benefits.
That's good. I think you're right. Sometimes we just kind of jump ahead. Like, I didn't know what Rangers did. I just knew that's what I wanted to do. And I figured it out when I got there. So yeah, do your research and talk to people. If you're a guy out there who wants to do it, coming from the regiment, I know you'll have a conversation with them and give them some mentorship.
Of course.
Because that's the key. So fast forward all this time. Now you have a son, right? How has that changed your perspective on everything?
It makes everything more serious for sure. I was thinking the other day how, like, man, I used to just go to a restaurant when I want to or do whatever. Yeah, restaurant's like the mild thing, right? I used to go out and do it up and party with the buddies.
Yeah.
But yeah, it kind of focuses you in life and you're working towards something. And I mean, it's better in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
The kind of joy and happiness from being with your children is unlike anything you have in life. So and then you start wanting to think about just making their life better.
Yeah.
I hope when he's old enough, I want to be able to give him everything he wants without spoiling him. There's that line.
There's a balance. Yeah.
You don't want a snotty kid, but you want to give him everything.
Yeah, that's right. So when you're talking about your kids, your military time and everything, we'll ask, it's the question I ask everybody, how would you define vulnerability?
Yeah, man. So when you mentioned that, the first thing I did was go to the dictionary. I'm like, dude, what does vulnerability mean? I think to me, like, vulnerability is, it almost also suggests, like, a synonym is almost strength. You know what I mean? Because it takes strength to be vulnerable.
Absolutely.
To, kind of walk into a situation and put it all out there and not. You always have that. You could have feel when you're vulnerable, like, hey, you're exposing yourself, but that it's okay and you'll recover from it, and you're not gonna knock me off my game, even though I'm putting it all out there. So it's means being authentic, because we all are vulnerable so
absolutely.
much,
yes,
and we don't want to show it, but
there's some good stuff that come from it. I mean, I'm sure you had some when you first walked to Northwestern law school. There was probably some vulnerable moments,
dude. Yeah, absolutely. I was saying, I was a little bit of a shock. I called a buddy up. I'm like, dude, bro, I mean, I don't know, man. Everyone's so smart here, man.
yeah.
It's a challenge, but it's honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's important.
Yeah. So in that vein, now, I mean, it's pretty well known. Lawyers work long hours, potentially, some very long hours. How do you try to achieve work-life balance, mental health balance? What is all that?
Yeah, that's a struggle. It also depends on, how good a job you're doing, like if you want to do a good job, it's hard to have that balance. You kind of make that prime number one.
Yeah.
But then you can't, especially something like with like family and children, you can't neglect them. So I don't know. I'm still kind of trying to figure that out,
Yeah. I think I was talking to somebody on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about balance, and I don't think it's the pursuit of balance.
Yeah.
There's not really, you're never going to achieve balance. If you're a high performer in high functioning, high paying jobs and you have a family, balance is almost impossible. But you have, as long as you're pursuing it and doing your best and being intentional about what you're doing,
right,
I think that's where you can achieve a balance, maybe not total balance, but it's tough, right?
And you also don't have to do it forever. You do it for as long as it makes sense to you. So, I'm getting awesome skills. I have been getting awesome skills that are very marketable. So if I chose it, hey, at this stage in my life, I want to be there more for my kid every day, and spend, that's the goal, is to get in a position where you do the hard work now, and then maybe you can even retire early.
Right.
Like my life experience is also at certain times, like when I was doing the startup stuff, I really tightened the belt. Like
right.
I was making no money,
right.
Doing startup stuff. So I got this appreciation in between law firms that you learn to live with just what's important almost, I don't feel like going out and spending so much dough on $500 dinner. Just, it doesn't mean anything anymore. So I ended up stacking good money working at law firms, and it's been good. And then the pandemic actually opened a bunch of investment opportunities.
Oh yeah.
So the goal is to become financially secure, and then maybe you can really peel back and do other things.
Make up for lost time, or be more intentional about the later times, or
I guess so.
Have a goal, or you even in telling your story, you're always kind of looking forward, it seems like, which is a key to, I think, to anybody if wants to be successful. You got to kind of look beyond what's right in front of you, and kind of begin with the end in mind. What's your end goal, and how are you going to get there?
Plan backwards, right?
Yeah. That's what I tell them when I talk to guys. You've done it your whole career in the military. You start at the end and you plan backwards. And so mental health. When you transitioned out, any issues in that realm, or was it because you stayed so busy? You think that you didn't have it? I've had my own struggles with mental health, and I'm transitioning soon. I'm an advocate for it and trying to get rid of some of that stigma that comes along from our backgrounds. Sure. What you have thoughts on that?
For sure. That's important. Yeah. Like you say, getting rid of that stigma, because we're coming from a culture, and at least when I got out, that our culture is very much where we were in 2000, 2004. It was very much influenced by the people before us, and there was no you're sick physically or mentally. Physically, of course, you're not. And mentally, that wasn't even a thought. I came out. I had some challenges, like I guess risk taking behavior was a big one. That it's like you got used to a certain adrenaline and thrill that just doesn't come with regular life.
Yeah, that's right.
So I remember, like, the last time I kind of really did risky stuff was I was in Brazil. I was studying in law school. I did a semester in Brazil. Awesome idea.
Oh, yeah.
And I got this. I was like with some dudes I met down there. I'm like, hey man, why don't I go into that little puddle, little pool area in the waterfall? They had this big waterfall, maybe like I don't know, 175 feet down. And it pretty fast grade, and of course the water just makes everything super slick. Yeah. But there was a little pocket of pool of water, little bathtub. And I'm like, why don't I just try to like sneak in there? I don't know where in my mind that seemed like a good idea.
Yeah.
And I went, and I'm like, all right, let me try it. But there was like a little rationalization. I'm like, oh, if I slip, there's this big rock there, and then there's this other pool there, and maybe I can just like bounce off and go into that. Whatever, dude. So I get on there, and I'm trying to shimmy over, and I hit that that slippery part and the water's coming, and I'm like, I'm about to slide down this fucking 75-foot waterfall, man. But I slid, and then actually the alternate plan worked. I was able to bounce off this big rock into this other, and it was literally a bounce off with the right foot. I had to hit it just right so I can fall into this other one, this other little puddle. I busted up the skin of my heel. Nothing broke, I don't think. I'm pretty sure not, but I kind of got a little bandage up and walked around a little bit. And then the next day or the day after, I thought about it, and like my stomach flipped. I'm like, yo, why'd I do that? I could have been broken every single bone in my body.
Yeah.
So yeah, never. So that was the last time. I was like 32.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, man. You really need to stop doing stupid stuff. So
yeah.
But I kind of feel like it comes from that.
Part of it, yeah.
That's that seeking adrenaline lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that sometimes that can go with alcohol. I think straight out of the military, there was some alcohol involved in
absolutely.
that. Some heavy drinking, some dangerous behavior.
Yeah, that's true. And I think probably part of because you stayed on task, though. You were in school, you kept going. It's the guys that don't stay on task that they start falling in that pit, and they just got to reach out and ask for help.
It gives you something to do. It's definitely important.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and all this, if you could go all the way back to PFC, coming out of RIP, what advice would you give them, as that private, or even as the transition out? What advice did you not take, or would take, or would like to have had coming out?
I don't know what advice I would have taken. You're like,
that's true.
You're 19. Yeah. You think you know everything to some extent. At least I did. You know what I mean? You don't have a wisdom of maturity, realizing you don't know everything. You don't know anything now, and you certainly didn't know anything then. So I don't know how I could get to that guy and convince him, but just kind of appreciation for what you're in, for what you're doing, because it's unlike anything in life that you'll ever see if you leave, and it's just such an awesome institution that you have the privilege of being a part of.
That's right, privilege. That's what. You don't have to put the uniform on. You get to put the uniform on, and when you can't do it anymore, there's going to be a void there, And appreciate you coming on. It's great to see you. It's like we never missed a beat, and it's been 15 years or more since we've seen each other. Appreciate it. It's great to see guys like you out there just crushing it in the world, and I know it'll inspire some other guys that listen to this or see it that are either wanting to do that or having troubles. And thanks for taking the time, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, sure.